Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Christina and I talk about whatever it is I feel like talking about. So it's very random, but I think that today is going to be a really good video. I wanted to do a video on basically my advice to young women. This is advice I wish somebody had given me when I was a young woman. And so I hope that you guys find it helpful. I will say it's by no means exhaustive. I just wrote down, like in my notepad, some things that came to mind while I was like on my walk. So I'm sure there's something that I have forgotten that later on I'm going to be like, oh, I wish I would have added to that. But I just thought that this would be helpful for people. And I basically am wanting to, if I could sit and talk to myself when I was younger, this is the advice I would give myself. Although some of this stuff, luckily, I knew about. So I hope you guys find it useful. But I think that some of these you might not like hearing. The first thing, and it's not in any order at all, so keep that in mind. The first thing I would recommend to young women in particular is to either get off of social media altogether or to learn to severely cut back and like moderate your use of it. Social media will make you very anxious and it will not fulfill you. I know that you think you need to be constantly updating everybody on all aspects of your life and what you're doing every day, but you're really just feeding data into an engine that is designed to harvest that data, to surveil you, and then to hit you with targeted advertisement and micro nudging to try to influence you for a variety of reasons. This is not a good thing. So the more that you're using social media, the more the people who control it know how to manipulate you. Just by way of example, Cambridge Analytica, we learned during 2016, had it came out that they had 5,000 to 8,000 unique data points on every individual American voter. Think about that. Do you know 5,000 to 8,000 things about yourself? Can you think of even 10 off the top of your head? That is a lot of information, and that information is power. So I would caution young women to be far more careful about how they use social media. And you really don't need to be constantly updating people about what you're doing. I mean, there are bad people out there, and if they see you going to the same places every single day, you're kind of like putting out information that could endanger you. So I would tell people also that the internet is a dangerous place. This used to be understood. It is less so now that they have gone through the process of sanitizing the internet. I've done a video on dead internet theory. That's a topic for another day, but please cut back on social media. If you do, you will feel a lot better. You know, we have hormones, women, and emotions, and social media affects that in a negative way, especially because most of these big tech social media platforms are designed to hit you with content that is offensive or something that they know will kind of get you riled up, because that keeps you using the platform longer. But this is not good for you because you're stressing yourself out, you're flooding your body with all kinds of negative emotions, negative hormones, and this causes it has physical side effects. I would say that saving is not enough. If you're working, and you should be saving money, but it isn't enough to simply set money aside. You know, we all had, like when we were young, we would have a savings account, and if we put like a couple bucks in there occasionally, we would tell ourselves we were saving money, but that's not a real thing. You need to have an actual financial plan for the future that you should be discussing with your husband. If you don't have a husband yet, this is something you should discuss with your parents, with your father. Not everybody has a dad. I totally understand that. Then find a father figure or an older person, a mentor who can help you come up with this, because you really don't have a lot of time. Like when you're young, you think that it's going to be fun forever and like responsibility free forever. I know there's a lot of entitled and spoiled young people. This is going to last very short. It's going to be short lived. So enjoy it while you can. You're going to have to face the real world sometime soon, and you'll learn that it is a very hard place. Now, I went through hardships that not every young woman goes through, not every young person goes through. My mother threw me out when I was 17. I've got videos about this, about having to drop out of school, get a GED, having to sleep on strangers' couches, and how I lost all of my friends. Everybody abandoned me because it was too much of a hassle to like drive to see me now that I wasn't living at home, and I had to work all the time. So this was a very humbling experience, and I think that that builds character. And I also think it helps you develop some grit, right? If you're in a position where you're literally one step away from homelessness, you realize really quickly your strengths. You know, you're put in a situation where you basically have to sink or swim. And I do think that young women would benefit from having an experience like that. So, you know, maybe this is not to say I want people to experience teenage homelessness. That sounds bad. I just mean it's good for people to understand and to relate to others, to develop empathy, to go through, to at least have knowledge that there are people who are going through these things. So maybe you volunteer at a homeless shelter, and you don't have to do it for a long time, but maybe just do it once or twice so that you have these experiences and talk to these people, and you learn a lot from that. Advice would be finding a husband is more important than going to school and getting a degree. This is the stuff that was sold to all of us as kids. We were all told that we needed to go to college and get a degree, and that somehow would magically make our lives better. But one thing that happened to me, or that one of my experiences was, you know, I was thrown out of my house when I was 17. This was probably around 2006, because I was class of 2007, and I dropped out my junior year, I think. I can't, all the details are hard to remember now, but in any case, when my friends, you know, this was right before the 2008 financial crisis. So that happens, and I had friends who were going to college when I was like waiting tables, working doubles, you know, sleeping on couches. And then I had to kind of build myself up. I eventually got a job at a real estate office and then a law firm. And then I went from being a receptionist to a paralegal, blah, 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 blah. But I had to go to job interviews, and I had to have the experience of having to explain to somebody why I have a GED and not even a high school degree. And I had to explain why I was qualified for the job based on experience and whatnot, other than having, quote, qualifications. And I will say that if you are a personable individual, like if you can talk to people, if you could get your foot in at least for an interview, and you have good social skills, and you have some experience and you're a fast learner, you can basically get a job, like a paralegal job. You don't have to have a degree to get one. There are people that I knew who went to school to get 4-year degrees, and then when they got out of school, they had to get a job like as a barista at Starbucks because nobody would hire them because they didn't have experience. Whereas I, at that point, you know, when my friends were finally getting out of college, since I had been working for so long, I was doing better than them. And then a lot of them had student loan debt. So if they had this debt and student loans, they had to start making payments on, but they were not getting any jobs. Like those degrees didn't help them get jobs. So, you know, obviously for some things, yes, you have to get a degree, but I would just like warn you guys that college is a scam. It's way overpriced, and getting these degrees is not a guarantee that you're going to come out of school, get the job you want, be able to make a decent wage. So finding a husband is what your main focus should be, especially when you're young. This is the most important decision that you're ever going to make, and your well-being and the well-being of your family is at stake, right? Because it will be affected. If you make that wrong decision, then your future will not be a good one. It won't be pleasant. So when you're young, you know, there's this desire to go out and date around. You know, this is what is glorified in mass media. And there's these dating apps and there's things that facilitate this vapid process. And I would warn you that you're not going to, nothing good comes from that. It's just an impulsive thing and you will regret it. So find somebody, if you're dating, you should be dating to marry, and you should find somebody who shares the same values as you. You know, the other thing is when you're young, you have a lot of hormones. This affects your thinking. You need to learn to master and control your emotions, because if you can't control yourself, what can you control? Like, you won't be able to properly assert yourself in the world if you can't even master yourself. I would also say that for young women, being a mom should be the aspiration. And I know not everybody, there will be some exceptions to this. Some people are just not cut out to be mothers and wouldn't make good mothers. I know because my own mother is a very good example of this, of somebody who didn't want to be a mother and didn't enjoy being a mother and was very unpleasant. You know, it's not a, some people shouldn't be parents, but for most people, this should be the goal. And this is how we lived up until just recently. Like, this was understood that that's the whole point of becoming an adult, is to start a family of your own. So that should be the aspiration. And there is so much negative information put out about being a mom or being a homemaker or stay-at-home mom, all kinds of horror stories that aren't true. Being a mom is the most important job you're ever going to have, and it's the only thing that's really going to matter. Because think about this, when you are older, when you're like 60 years old, do you think it's going to matter that, oh, I had this job at this big law firm once? You think you're even going to be thinking about that? No, your priorities change over time. This is hard to understand when you're young, and your priorities are what they are when you're young, which is, you know, having fun, but that gets old very quickly. What you want is something more fulfilling. So this requires, being a parent, of course, a lot of energy. So I recommend that you become a mom young. Like, I became a mom when I was 23. And again, it's not for everybody, but I am really glad that I was a mom young while I had the energy, you know? Don't believe the horror stories that you hear about how becoming a parent is financially crippling and how awful it is, how emotionally draining it is. This is not true. Of course, it does require resources, but so does everything. And it is the most important thing you will ever do. So there's nothing that will bring you more fulfillment and joy than being a parent, and the positives far outweigh the negatives, which are short-lived, by the way. Your kid is only a baby like for a few years, where you really have to give them constant around-the-clock care. It's once they start getting older, it's much easier, and it is not financially crippling. You can adapt, you can adjust, just like you would for anything else that is important to you. So prioritize family and relationships. You should be focusing on fostering connections, because we all need each other. And it's usually the wife and the mother that like keeps everything and everyone together. My grandmother, she was the only person that kept like the whole extended big Italian family coming together for holidays and for events. And once she passed away, it was really sad, because we never had events like that again, where the whole, everybody would show up and we'd see all our cousins. And, you know, it was like you felt that loss, that just one person, Nunny, was the glue that like held everything together. And that should be, you want to be that person, right? That when you pass away, people feel that loss of like, this was the person who kept everybody together and coming together and like kept all these connections. It is really important. And I would also say, I know this is hard, but you should be the kind of friend that you wish you had. For young people, it's difficult I think to make close connections, the way that young people are, and because of the internet, social media, people now view each other as disposable, and they don't value relationships like they used to. But I think that if you treat people well and you're a good friend, you will make those few connections with people who will stick around, and those will be deeper relationships and deeper friendships, which is what you should be focusing on. Not having tons of followers online. That is not the same as having like a real substantive relationship. I would also advise young women to not get sucked into consumerism, into shopping all the time, which is what is constantly promoted in our culture and on the media. It is wasteful and grotesque. There are people around the world who are suffering, who are starving, who have nothing. And we have in the West content creators who are promoting hyperconsumption, overconsumption. They are doing these videos where they do shopping hauls. And a lot of this stuff, by the way, is paid advertising. So it's designed to look like a regular person just telling you, oh, look, I went to a store and this is the things that I got. Meanwhile, this is a slick advertisement designed to look like a regular person. People are getting paid to do this, and they're showing off all of this stuff that they're basically never going to use. Temu is a great example of this. They sell all these stupid little products that are fun, but what are you really going to do with this stuff? And it just takes up space. It is not normal. Then they buy these containers, these bins to put all this stuff in. They sort them by color, and it's like, what are you doing? I've seen some of these crafting channels where they have an entire room filled with like crafting stuff and all these different bins, and I'm just thinking, how much money was wasted on this? I think it's nice to have hobbies and to do crafts, but when you are spending so much on it, it just becomes like weird. And I also think that, especially in America, everybody has a scarcity mindset. So they feel the need to buy. That's in fear of missing out, of, oh, I need to have this next thing, I need to have this Stanley Cup, and then I have to have it a certain way, and I have to have this, and whatever the latest trend is. This is not good, and it's not fulfilling. It will not bring you any happiness. Like, simplify your life. This stuff also stresses you out. Constantly shopping, constantly filling your house with clutter. This is stressful. It causes you to feel disorganized, to feel like you're, overwhelmed, basically. I have simplified my life a lot, and I thought, I used to, because of the things I experienced as a child, I struggled with like hoarding. I would have clothes that I hung on to for years that didn't fit me anymore, stuff that was too small that I was saving for in case I lost weight, and like the style wouldn't even be in style anymore. So you see what I mean, of like, why hang on to this that doesn't fit you, that you're not wearing? But it was that scarcity mindset of when I was homeless, of if I throw something out, I might not have it again, or living out of a suitcase with like one pair of shoes, and then wanting to make up for that. Like, I did spend time where I spent money on name brand clothes, and I would go to thrift stores all the time, constantly buying things I didn't need, couldn't use. Then it would stack up around the house. I was like literally a hoarder. This is childhood trauma. That is like the inability to process. It's like an emotional thing, and you're not thinking logically about what you're doing. So I wear right now like the same turtleneck shirt every day, and it doesn't affect my work at all. So learn to be more frugal. It is a good thing, and it's a smart thing, and it makes your life much easier. I don't have to stress out about what am I going to wear today? What am I going to wear for this video I record? I literally wear the same thing, modest turtleneck sweater, and no one cares. I've never had somebody comment and say, you wear the same purple and black turtlenecks in every video. Nobody cares. And it makes my life easier. It's simpler for me to get ready now. So that's my other advice, is to simplify your life. people waste so much time like mindlessly scrolling, and this overcomplicates your life. You end up trying to do too much, you spread yourself thin, and you spend so much time trying to fit in with people. It doesn't work, and it's nonsense. People should like you for who you are, regardless of what wardrobe you have. This is just going to stress you out. Throw things away that you don't need. Throw things away that you don't need. Save your money instead of wasting it on mindless purchases. You don't need to have 8 different pairs of yoga pants. You don't have to have matching, outfits, and none of this stuff is necessary. And it certainly isn't going to make you happy. I would also tell young women, my advice to them is your value is not attached to your looks. You are perfect the way God made you. You have so much more to offer people besides your body. Your looks will fade fast. Cultivate virtue and class. Those are things that do not fade. Get rid of bad influences. Women tend to be conflict avoidant, and we care more about what the crowd is doing. I would tell you not to concern yourself with what others think. Get rid of anyone who is constantly negative or putting you down rather than being supportive and lifting you up. You want godly friends who are going to be positive, because as Elder Thaddeus tells us, your thoughts determine your life, right? Get to know Christ. This is my most important advice for young women in this video. Develop a personal relationship with the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. His opinion is the only opinion that should matter to you. Do not go into debt. Young people are being told that they need to do certain things, take on massive amounts of debt in order to survive. This is simply not true. Do not take out credit cards, please. American credit card debt is at all-time highs, like our national debt, which has now surpassed $35 trillion. Debt is evil. It is anti-biblical. It is usurious, and no good comes from it. If you can't afford something, you are trying to live beyond your means. Live within your means. I would also recommend to young women to get more sleep. This is so important. I would also recommend that you have a good exercise routine. Work out daily if you can, if not every other day. I know I always feel more energized. I feel stronger. I am happier. I'm more positive after I work out in the morning. And I notice when I go a day without working out, I don't feel as good. Stop watching the news and stop watching content that upsets you. Why are people watching these negative videos? Why are you listening to negative things? Why are you looking at headlines that you know are just going to upset you? I'm not advocating for putting your head in the sand and being completely unaware of things that are happening in the world. Of course not. But you don't need to be constantly subjecting yourself to stuff that is designed to upset you. Because this, again, as I said, it floods your system with cortisol. It can negatively impact your health. Stress can cause so many side effects. It can cause your hair to fall out. You don't want this to happen. And I'll tell you, and I promise you, you will notice that you feel better when you listen to things that are uplifting and positive, when you listen to godly things. And this includes music. Luxury and name brands does not equal perfect quality. This is something I think young people make the mistake of. They think that, if I buy this brand name, well-known luxury brand, like Dior, Gucci, or whatever, they automatically assume that means it's going to be a high quality item. this could not be further from the truth. I will say you should recommend in high quality items that will last you longer. Clothing nowadays is designed to it's designed to fall apart so that you have to keep buying it. It's like throwaway stuff. This never used to be a thing. Back in the day, people used to have tailored outfits, right? They would get them tailored, it would be custom fit, and like they invested in a few high quality items. It is better to have just a few very nice things than to have a bunch of junk that doesn't properly fit you, that is cheaply made with cheap fabrics, that doesn't feel good on your skin. No, I recommend just investing in a few nice pieces. Invest in learning how to cook. Stop wasting money on takeout. And if you are a young person, a young woman, and you try to say you don't do this, you're lying. I know that you do. I know you DoorDash, okay? Stop doing takeout. Learn how to cook. This is going to save you so much money, but it's also going to teach you so many skills that will be beneficial to you when you're older and when you're wanting to, have people over, to entertain people. Knowing how to cook well is a very great skill. Learn how to garden. I would also recommend to young women that don't dye your hair. You don't need to do this. It is bad for your hair. It's damaging for your hair. And when people color their hair, you can usually tell that it doesn't go well with their skin, right? Like if being a fair-skinned, blonde hair, blue-eyed person, if I dyed my hair black, it wouldn't look right on me. Like I have, see-through hairs on my arms. It would just look goofy, and it's bad for you. Please don't do this. I wish somebody gave me that advice. When I was younger, I dyed my hair so many colors. I bleached my hair. I dyed my hair black. I had blue hair. I had green hair. I'm not even lying. I had black and green, like mint green hair at one point. Lord have mercy. My mother was not around when I was a teenager. She was, preoccupied. And so I was allowed to do all kinds of stupid, foolish things. And it's not helpful. So I would also recommend that if you're a young woman, do not use too much products. You don't need a ton of makeup. You don't need to be wearing a full face of foundation. This is not necessary. You don't need to be using these anti-aging products. In fact, if you're a young person and you use those, that actually can damage your skin. It can give you chemical burns to your skin that end up prematurely aging you. And I see so many young kids, even like teenagers, who are using this anti-aging regimen that is not for them, that is for older people, for older skin. It's very disturbing to me. So please don't do this. Take my advice. I would also say that your image doesn't matter to you as much as you think it does. People obsess about, controlling how they appear to others, how they come off. None of this matters. It's all vanity. And finally, I would advise young women to stop trying to compete with men and stop trying to be men. This is a part of the reason why you're unhappy. This is also part of the reason why men are put off by your behavior, because so many young women they're very aggressive, very confrontational, very manly, I guess. Like if you're a man, why would you want to date like another man? Basically, you don't. You want something different. And again, trying to compete in a men's world is not fulfilling. I know. I worked in offices. I worked at law firms. I dealt with office politics. That was a man's world, and I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it, and it made me miserable. There were days that I would come home from work and I would have so much anxiety. I would feel so drained, so tired, and my life got so much better when I got out of the corporate world. Now I can do what I want from the comfort of my home. I just get to record videos like this. It is so much less stressful, and there's nobody telling me what I have to do. And I understand I'm very blessed to have this. Not everybody has it, but there are other things that you can do. There are other skills you can develop, and that, of course, you can be in the business world. Like you can bake cookies. There's tons of things that you could do, where you don't have to be, where you don't have to try to be a man. You know what I mean? If you know, you know. Okay. This has been long. This has been rambling. That's it for now. I hope you guys have a good day. Whee! Goodbye was not an option. It's clear to you, but to no one was it clearer than to me. Since day one, I've been locked in. I'm not fucking hanging up. I told you I loved you just outside your mom's place. We laughed, then you felt bad as we sat there red-faced. I felt like a bitch, so I told you to get out. But I guess Bren was right, babe, 'cause who's laughing now?